Am I wrong for refusing to drop charges in exchange for saving my family? I, 33 male, met my wife, 33 female, in college. It was a long-term physical relationship that turned serious at the end of our senior year. After graduation, I didn't have plans, so I decided to move to her hometown, a major southern city. I didn't know anybody, so we were together 24/7 and moved in together within a year. During this time, I met her family a few times. She had a huge extended family where her mom, Sharon, was the matriarch. Her dad died in a workplace accident, and her mom got a lot of money. She was smart and invested and is doing well. All of Sharon's siblings and nieces and nephews look to her for advice on all major life decisions. She's paid for school, weddings, and helped start businesses. My wife has 2 brothers who I always got along with. We would hang out independent of my wife a few times a year. We got married after 3 years, and when my son was born, Sharon bought us a house 3 blocks from hers. Sharon is very generous with her money. We had lived in a downtown loft-style apartment, and this was honestly a relief. But with the house came Sharon constantly being in my life. Coming in the house unannounced, unsolicited advice, and snide remarks at my expense. Eventually, 18 months later, we had a blow-up fight and I moved my family across town to an apartment. My wife was pissed and our relationship has deteriorated. Sharon hates me and has turned most of their family against me. Whoa, what a flip. I didn't see or go to any of her family events for over a year. My wife still saw her family, but because I wasn't invited and they were over 30 minutes away, it was much less. Sharon went from seeing her grandson almost every day to once a month. So her hate for me went through the roof. Skip to the incident. Let us know. My wife had to work and I was asked to take my son to his cousin's birthday party. The party was at Sharon's house, and if it wasn't my son's first cousin, 6 months apart, I would have said no. It was tense the moment I walked into the house. Father of the birthday boy, brother-in-law, greeted me, but no one else spoke to me. I didn't mind and I sat in the corner on my phone. This apparently pissed Sharon off because I was being rude. An argument ensues and I announce I'm leaving with my son. Sharon said, "You can go, but my grandbaby is staying." At this point, I lost my cool and I started cursing her out. I woke up on the front lawn. What? Apparently, my 2 brother-in-laws beat the crap out of me in front of my kid. 2 of her cousins were helping me up and told me just to leave. I immediately called the police and said I was assaulted and my child was kidnapped. Police came and both brothers were arrested. Sharon lost her crap on the police and my wife drove up as her mother was being arrested for refusing to release my son. Her mom was eventually released, but her brothers were arraigned on assault charges. The father of the birthday girl had an assault charge from college, so he is facing some serious consequences. My wife is mad at everyone but asked me to drop the charges. I not only refused, but I got restraining orders for all 3 of them. Her mother isn't allowed to be near our kid and her brothers have court dates early next year. Last month, she moved out of the house and we are now headed for divorce. Yesterday, she came with one last offer for us to move cities and start over. So there's a little bit of hope here, but only if I drop the charges. I take that back. On her brothers and remove the restraining order on her mom. I told her I would think about it, but I think that I would rather get divorced. I honestly want to keep my family, but I don't believe she'll ever abandon her family for me. If I drop charges now, I doubt I can bring them back later. Am I an a-hole for not trying to save my family? Edit. This blew up overnight. My wife's cousin DM'd me because she found it. She was there that day and told me to add some more context because her family is getting railed in the comments. She's right. So here are a few more things. I don't think anyone is evil in the situation. Everyone loves Sharon and her advice except me. She's not a mean person, but we are polar opposites in many ways. My wife is the baby and only girl, so I'm sure that has a lot to do with our conflict. Sharon losing her crap on the police was uncharacteristic, and even I was surprised. My wife is a great mom and partner, and her inability to be independent of her mom's influence is our issue. She is mad at her brothers and isn't talking to them either. She's also mad at her mom for starting the argument and refusing to release our son. She's just trying to find middle ground. I genuinely think she hopes a fresh start can save our marriage. Until we moved into that house, I would say our relationship was good. As far as her brothers and the assault, I remember the first hit, but I was dazed immediately. The last thing I remember was flailing like a child while getting hit a few more times. What I don't remember is my kids screaming to stop hitting my daddy and then picking me up and dropping me on the lawn like trash. I have to acknowledge that my pride hurts more than my bruises. I genuinely liked her brothers, and to be fair, F you and betch came out of my mouth when I cursed at Sharon. I'm not 100% innocent. This is the South, so the police even said, "What did you expect to happen?" I don't know if I stopped pursuing this or not. Now, this is a response to a comment that was very popular on his post. I just want to comment on this because it keeps coming up. In the initial confrontation, the cops asked if I wanted them arrested, and I said yes. I was more bruised than bloody, but they were willing to let it go as a family dispute. That's where the "what did you expect to happen" conversation come from. I'm not pressing charges per se, but I'm not letting it go. I've done 2 interviews with police and have been fully cooperating. If I stopped, they might drop the charges because they seemed more annoyed than helpful. I doubt the younger brother will get more than a slap on the wrist. My wife's older brother, with a prior, is in a lot more trouble. He's the one everyone is worried about. Also, Sharon never went to jail. When my wife arrived, Sharon was being escorted to a car. My wife and her 2 uncles got Sharon to calm down and they let her go. So she never actually made it to jail. She wasn't being violent, but was cursing and blocking them from entering the house. The only thing positive about the arrest, and Sharon's almost arrest, was it made getting a restraining order way easier. But even that took a month. Also, I never talked to a lawyer for any reason or had any trouble with the police. I honestly don't know how any of this works. I just found out the difference between parole and probation a few weeks ago. Before I move on to the update, I want to know where you guys are at. Are you dropping the charges and the restraining order and starting over? Or are you saying absolutely not? You put your hands on me and I'm sticking with these charges. What are you doing? First update. I've been wanting to write an update and answer questions for a while, but after my original post, many Reddit lawyers reached out to me and told me to stop talking immediately. Since things were very uncertain and my divorce wasn't settled, I decided to not respond or update anything until things calm down. A lot has happened to so many people involved, so I think I'm just going to break it down by person. I respect this organization, sir. Me. We're starting with him. I moved back to the West Coast, where I am originally from. I decided to move forward with the divorce, so I moved home. Furthermore, I had nothing left for me in that city, as I only had a few friends, my son, and a lot of bad memories. My ex and son cried a lot the day I left, and that hurt my soul, but it was best for all parties involved. So I moved back home to be around my family and my support system. I got a good paying job, and I'll be subletting a 2-bedroom apartment starting next month. My son spent the holidays with me, staying with my parents right now, and I plan to see him on Easter. Going forward and laid out in our custody agreement, my son will stay with his mother until he is 12. I'll get him Easter and summers, and we'll switch Christmas and Thanksgiving every year. When he's 12 and needs a father figure, he'll come live with me until he is 18. I talk to my son every day on the phone for at least an hour, and I'll try to fly out there a few times a year. I can't shake the feeling that a piece of me is missing and wish it was just my son, but I miss my wife too. Oh, he might regret that decision. My ex-wife. So the divorce is basically settled, and I obviously didn't move away with her. In the end, she saw my post and saw the comments and realized that she shouldn't have asked me to stop pursuing the case. She asked again, saying we could move and just get away from her family. Too much had happened, and our relationship was a shell of what it was. We both said and did things we forgave but can't forget. I wish this was a movie and I could just say love conquers all, or F her, she is evil, but that isn't real life. I'm torn between both loving this person and knowing we aren't right for each other. Oh, that is just the worst spot to be, when two people really love each other, but it's like, we're just not right together. That's tough. While she didn't want to move forward with the divorce, she didn't fight me on it either. We were both able to settle everything without lawyers and only use them for paperwork and fine details. We talk daily because of our son, and she says she's doing well, but last time I FaceTimed her, I can tell she isn't eating. My sister said it's post-breakup hotness, whatever that means, but she looks more sick than hot. Let me tell you one thing. I remember during every breakup I had, my appetite went to absolute trash. Some people, when they're stressed or sad or hurting, appetite goes away, and for others, appetite is very much there and you binge eat and you just, yum, need all the food. Everyone's different, but yeah. I remember I lost weight after breakups because I just genuinely had no appetite. Not good. She hasn't spoken to her brothers since that day and blames them for a lot of what happened. She and Sharon's relationship is also very strained, and they barely talk as well. Ironically, she is hardly speaking to the family that she was so desperately trying to keep together. I honestly wish she would talk to her family again because I worry about her a lot. People were very mean to my ex-wife, saying she was a terrible mother and wife. I think she lives for and would die for her family, and all her actions were to keep us together. She told me her two biggest regrets were moving into Sharon's house and moving out of our apartment. Those two actions caused most of our problems. She's a great mother to my child, and I will always have her back. The brothers! I didn't expect much as far as punishment in this case. They both pled out to a simple assault, which only had minimal consequences. Both brothers spent a night in jail, got fines, and anger management. The older brother had a prior incident that I mentioned in the earlier post. It was a bar fight in his early 20s, and he hit a guy with a bottle and got an assault charge. Yeah, that'll do it. Since that case was over 15 years ago and he's married, pillar of the community, etc., he was given probation for a year, and that was the end. Both brothers have partners in life, and the oldest one is married. I've known his wife for many years, and we've actually always been friendly. Because of the restraining order, both spouses reached out on behalf of the brothers to speak to me. I barely knew the younger brother's girlfriend, but since I knew the wife, I spoke to her. She said both brothers regretted their decision, and she asked me to lift the restraining order and to not pursue charges. We had a brief conversation, but I simply told her I don't forgive her husband and brother-in-law, and I'm moving forward with both. As we ended the conversation, I told her not to call me again, and I haven't heard from either brother since. I don't know anything beyond what the ex tells me, and she isn't speaking to them. Sharon! We are on to ex-mother-in-law. So I did have it out with Sharon, and it went about as well as you could imagine. Here's a little backstory to our relationship. Let's start by saying my ex and her family are devout Christians who go to church weekly. I'm a lapsed Catholic who goes to church 3 times a year. I live a very moral and ethical life, but my belief system isn't centered on the church. Furthermore, I consider myself a moderate liberal, and their family is moderate conservatives. Example, I'm down the Second Amendment, and Sharon supported gay marriage. Ideologically, we were far apart but agreed on the more important things in life. The real problems began when my son was going to be baptized. My mom wanted to get our son baptized Catholic, and Sharon wanted him baptized Protestant. I say that weird, Protestant? Lots of snide remarks about Catholics were said, but I let it go at the time. The ex and I decided to wait and let our son decide, which Sharon hated. When my ex started going back to church and I wasn't in attendance, that further widened the divide. Her family would go by Sharon or someone else's house after church for lunch or dinner, and I either showed up later or not at all. Every time Sharon didn't agree with a decision we made as a couple in regard to our lives, especially my son's life, she would start leaning on my wife and pressuring her behind the scenes. We would literally make a decision and she would go to her mom's house, then come back with a different opinion. I feel like we've all been in that situation where other people get in someone's ear and then it's like, wait a second, why are you now changing your mind? Who spoke to you? The most frustrating part is Sharon stopped trying to talk to me at all. She literally would just call my wife and get her to change her decision. The big fight that led us to moving out was that my son wanted to play soccer and not football, but my wife's family is a huge football family. We agreed for him to not play football because he didn't want to play and our concerns about CTE. My wife comes home one day and does a 180, saying that she signed him up for football. We started arguing and Sharon comes into the house unannounced and joins the conversation, saying, "We decided it would be good for him." Well, this is not your son. So I got pissed and told them Sharon is not my son's parent and my ex shouldn't be so weak when her mom is pressuring her to do something that we decided not to. Then she said the words that sealed the deal. Quote, "My opinion should matter. I bought the house." I started looking for a new apartment that night and never looked back. I would be the same way. If people do nice things for you but then throw it in your face in a disagreement or argument, I'm out. No, you're not gonna do something nice and then throw it in my face. If that's the case, take your house and I'll be on my way. So when we talked, neither of us raised our voices, but it wasn't a nice conversation. I started and I apologized for cursing her out and she apologized for trying to keep my son that day without my permission. She flat out told me she wished my daughter never met me and that I've ruined her family. That her son have criminal records now. One already did, and it's all my fault. She then started crying about not seeing my son and how she lost her only daughter. I told her she was manipulative and used her money to control the family, that she only didn't like me because she couldn't control my decisions like her weak-willed family. I also told her she consistently overstepped her bounds in regards to my child and marriage, and she put her own selfish interest ahead of her daughter's happiness. After spending an hour calling each other assholes in different ways, we ended things in the same place. In the end, I told my ex her mom could see my son because Sharon loves him unconditionally and he loves her. Oh, I'm surprised by that. Call me stupid, but I think family is a big part of your upbringing. My mom isn't around him enough and every child needs a good grandma. The ex said she has been to a few family situations that were hard to avoid, like wedding, funeral, Thanksgiving, but she leaves when her brothers come and my son doesn't leave her side. Sharon has seen my son and he has played with his cousin, the birthday boy from the original story, but she's keeping him from the family for the time being. Before we move on to the other updates, I need a sip of water. So grab your beverage of choice. We're hopping on hydration station. You can see what's in my cup. Lemon water. Cheers. Moving on to my son. He's having a hard time with everything. It's not the fight. He thinks we were wrestling. He misses me a lot and cries on some of our phone calls. He is in therapy and all the sessions are about missing his dad and why we can't live together. Oh my God, that's so sad. It's been a few months and it's slowly getting better, but we ruined his childhood and I take my share of responsibility in that. The cousin. She is my wife's first cousin, but they are more like sisters. Sharon is her aunt by marriage, but she was the first one to warn me about the family. She was also eviscerated by the comment sections for having me add to the story. She told me I was out of line for calling Sharon a bitch, but didn't feel that I deserved to get beat up. Likewise, she also grabbed my son when the fight happened and took him away. She was the one who told my son that we were wrestling and she called my wife to come immediately. When Sharon was being handcuffed, the cousin came outside holding my son. I told her to give him to me, but she pointed at my swollen face and asked if she could just hold him. I trusted her enough in that situation to care for my son, so I respected her enough to add all those details. She didn't deserve the crap comments either. And now the final conclusion. In the end, everyone in their family read the original post. Oh boy. But because of divorce and assault cases, no one directly contacted me other than my ex. It wasn't a hit to say the least, but I only care that it hurt my ex's feelings. I think seeing everything written out from my perspective opened her eyes. Obviously, some things were left out and broad strokes were made to explain complex situations. In the end, she said I didn't lie, but she thinks I painted her family in a horrible light. We thought about writing a joint update, but we aren't talking enough to make that happen. I told my ex about this post and asked if she wanted to read it before I posted, and she told me to write whatever I want. Nobody won here. We all lost. I'll try and respond to questions I think are relevant. And now we have one final edit to that conclusion post. I was trying to respond to people's comments, but the majority are saying the same thing. I'm an a-hole who abandoned his son and Sharon won. Trust me, I get it, but I don't agree. I've tried to be honest in all of this, and all I can say is that life is in black and white. I made the decision I think is best for my family. I don't think I abandoned my son, and I trust my ex. We are all doing our best in a crappy situation. And that's it. I want all of your opinions, thoughts, and feelings, especially parents out there, when you're dealing with an ex and a kid, and in-laws, ex-in-laws. I need it. Put it in the comments. I'll see you in the comment section. Stay classy out there. Stay sassy. See you tomorrow.